3 weeks before my pension vested, they walked me out of the building I helped build. The security guard wouldn't look at me. 34 years, and I left with a cardboard box and a handshake from no one. The new CEO thought he was cutting costs before a big sale. What he didn't know was sitting in my safe at home in a yellowed envelope from 1993. My name is Frank, and this is the story of how the boy who fired me signed his own resignation. In 1989, I walked into Hartwell Precision with dirty fingernails and no diploma. Henry Hartwell hired me on the spot. He said he could teach anything except caring about the work, and I already had that. I spent 34 years on that shop floor. I designed the grinding process that made our parts better than anyone's in the state. Half our contracts existed because of that process. Henry ran the company on handshakes and paid debts. When my daughter was born premature, he covered what insurance wouldn't and never mentioned it again. He wasn't just my boss. He was the closest thing I had to a second father. In 1993, the company nearly went under. Henry called me into his office and said, "Frank, I can't give you the raise you deserve, but I can give you something better. I just need you to trust me." 2 years ago, Henry died at his desk, the way he would have wanted. At the funeral, his grandson Preston gave a speech about, quote, leveraging the brand. I should have started wearing right then. Preston arrived with a business degree, a consultant, and a plan. Within a month, the shop floor had cameras in the dashboard. Within 3, the coffee was worse and the meetings were longer. Then the veterans started disappearing, quietly, one at a time. Big Mike from welding, gone. Sandra from quality control, gone. Every one of them replaced by someone younger, cheaper, and terrified. The rumor was that Preston was dressing the company up to sell it. Cut the payroll, shine the numbers, cash out his grandfather's life work before the paint dried. My turn came on a Tuesday, a performance review, my first bad one in 34 years. Words like efficiency gap and legacy mindset. The consultant wrote things down while Preston looked at his phone. 3 weeks. That's how far I was from my full pension vesting. They fired me 21 days before the milestone, and Preston called it, quote, unfortunate timing. The severance letter had my name spelled wrong. I packed 34 years into one cardboard box. My mugs, my calipers, a photo of Henry and me at the state fair. The same security guard who I trained on fire drills walked me to the parking lot. My wife found me that night at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. I am not a crying man, but that night, I came close. And then, I remembered the envelope. In my bedroom closet, behind the winter coats, there's a small fireproof safe. Inside, under the birth certificates, was a yellowed envelope with Henry's handwriting on it, from 1993. That year, instead of the raise he couldn't afford, Henry did something unusual. The grinding process I designed, he had it patented, not in the company's name, in mine. Hartwell Precision used my patent under a license agreement, a fair royalty renewed every year automatically, unless either side canceled it with 90 days notice. Henry knew his family. He told me, Frank, as long as you hold that patent, nobody can ever throw you away. I think he saw Preston coming before Preston could walk. My niece Rosa is a patent attorney, the first Kowalski with letters after her name. She read the agreement twice, looked up at me, and started to laugh. Uncle Frank, she said, do you understand what you're holding? Every part Hartwell shipped, every contract they signed, every dollar of that sale price Preston was chasing. All of it ran on a process the company didn't own. They didn't just fire an old machinist, they fired their landlord. So I didn't call a lawyer to sue. I didn't need to. Rosa drafted one page, notice of termination of license, effective in 90 days. I signed it with Henry's old pen and mailed it certified, first thing Monday. Here's what I learned later. The buyers, a firm from Cleveland run by a woman named Victoria Chen, were deep in due diligence when my letter arrived. Their lawyers found it before Preston did. Victoria's team asked one simple question: who owns the core manufacturing process? The room went quiet. $100 million deal. And the answer was, a machinist you fired 3 weeks before his pension. Preston called me 14 times that week. I was retired. I let it ring. The 15th call came from a number I didn't know. It was Victoria Chen. She said, "Mr. Kowalski, I believe you and I should talk." We met at a diner, not a boardroom. She ordered pie. I respected that. She slid the license agreement across the table and asked what it would take. I said, "I don't want revenge. I want what was already mine." The pension restored to the last cent. The severance recalculated like the firing never happened. And the veterans Preston had purged. Every one of them offered their jobs back, in writing, before I'd sign a new license. Then, the board found out Preston had known about the patent risk for 11 days and hidden it from the buyers. Hiding it from family was one thing. Hiding it from lawyers with $100 million on the table, that has a name. The sale went through, at Victoria's price, on Victoria's terms, with Preston's resignation attached as a condition. The same security guard walked him out. I'm told he carried his own cardboard box, smaller than mine. People ask if I celebrated. I didn't. I thought about Henry, watching his grandson undo him, and his old machinist quietly holding the company together one last time. That envelope wasn't a weapon. It was Henry keeping his word. I went back for 1 year as a consultant, teaching the process to the next generation. Victoria paid me fairly. Nobody called my mindset legacy. The new apprentice program is named after Henry. There's a photo of him in the break room now. Suspenders, rolled up sleeves, that grin. The kids call him the founder. I just call him my friend. I retired last spring on my own terms, with my full pension and a cake with my name spelled right. The whole shop floor signed the card. Big Mike cried, "Don't tell him I told you." Henry couldn't pay me what I was worth in 1993, so he paid me in trust instead. 30 years later, it turned out to be the most valuable thing anyone's ever given me. Loyalty isn't old-fashioned, it's just patient. If this story stayed with you, tell me in the comments. What would you have done with that envelope? Every week, I share one true-to-life story about work, loyalty, and the quiet ways justice finds its way home. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.